Welcome. Glad you could join us on what right now is a snowy day, but when you watch this, it might not be snowing anymore. But we're going to do an owl drawing today, just a quick sketch. We're going to do a sort of a general owl, not one particular species, but I'll show you some owl things along the way. I have my owl behind me who's just, making sure I do everything correct. But we're going to start with a pretty simple owl. Owls are really kind of easy. They're basically two shapes put together with lots and lots of feathers on top of them. So we're going to end up drawing something kind of like the one you see here. Now the drawing behind me right now is done with just a pencil. But for the sake of everybody being able to see all the steps, I'm going to draw my owl using two different drawing tools. I'm going to start with just a lighter color marker so I can show you what the under drawing is. And then I'm going to use just a black permanent marker over the top of that to show you all the details. So you should be able to see what I'm doing, but you can follow along just using a pencil. You don't need anything special. A crayon would work, a marker, anything you have will work just fine. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to take my little spot and set up. Give you guys the best view. Oh, that was almost exciting. All right. There we go. So, like I said, owls are kind of a simple shape to draw. They look really complex because of all those feathers, but we're going to start with the simple shape. Now, we're going with this kind of sideways view like this. You could also do the view kind of like the owl behind me, which is standing up and down on a branch. But we're going to do this way first. So we're going to start with a smaller circle. Now, if you're doing sort of a standard size sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper, you want something about the size of an orange, maybe one of those little mandarin oranges, maybe a little bit bigger. So I'm going to start with a circle like this. There's my circle. All right. And now we have to do the body under structure. So we're going to do basically a big egg shape, which will be about 1, 2, maybe almost 3. So I'm going to give myself here. So 1, 2, 3, big egg shape going underneath. So that's part 2. Now, most birds are a circle and kind of an egg shape, so if I put a little beak on this end, now it's a duck. But we're gonna turn this one into our owl. We're gonna do one more shape. We're gonna do another kind of egg shape like this, but we're gonna do it inside here. That's gonna be the wing. So we're gonna do just one more egg shape inside there. Again, really close to a duck, but it's going to be an owl when we're done because there's some important things we have to do. So now we're going to start putting in details. Now, owls are really recognizable because of their face. They have a pretty distinctive direction on their face. They face forward because they're predators. And they have very face front eyes so that they have what's called binocular vision. I have an owl skull here. This is from a great horned owl. The eyes are quite large. They actually fill up most of the head. And then these pieces here are what are called scleric rings. They help them focus their eyes. In fact, their eyes are so big that they can't move them around a lot in their skulls. And so what they do instead is they turn their whole head. We can make our eyes go back and forth. They can't really do that. So they turn their whole head around. So we're going to need to get those in place on our owl. So let's do the next set of things. So I'm going to do some lines. So I'm going to do a line down the middle of the face. That gives us the middle line, the midline of the face. And then we're going to do one that's we're just going to cut the owl's face into quarters. You don't have to be 100% accurate. That's okay. Now in these two spots here, we're going to do circles again. So we're going to do a circle here Maybe it goes just a little bit behind there. I'm gonna just circle here. I gave my owl really, really big eyes. All right, so we have the two eyes. And then we're gonna do a little triangle, kind of a long triangle along that midline there. So there's our triangle. So that's the beak. They have that really sharp pointy beak because again, they're predators. They like to eat. They eat meat. They eat little mice. It's a great horned owl. It would probably eat a skunk if it could catch it. All right, so now we have sort of the understructure of our owl. I'm going to give us a little hint here. He's going to be standing on a little stick or something. So I'm just going to put a little square here so that I know where the stick goes. All right. So now I'm going to start adding in details. So I'm going to change to my other marker. If you're doing this with a pencil, if you did this with really light lines, you could go over it now with really dark lines. So, all right, let's see, what should we start with? We're going to start with the eyes. We sometimes end with the eyes because it makes things look alive then, but I'm going to start with the eyes because they're so important. And I'm just going to do a couple little tiny hash marks. So just kind of like eyebrows, cross a little bit of that eye. Just to give him a little bit of owls kind of look like they're frowning. They're not really, but they kind of look like they're frowning. That's going to give them a little bit of an eyelid. Then we're going to follow the rest of that circle around. Again on this side. Now we need the pupils. So we're going to do a great big, we're going to do ours so that it's like nighttime. So its eyes, the pupils are really dilated. So they're really open here. They can be bigger or smaller than that. If it's a really bright day, you know, they might be a little smaller. If it's out at night, it'd be really wide open. Owls have really great night vision, way better than ours. They can see a mouse, you know, from several hundred feet away in the dark. I mean, I can't do that. So, and then I'm actually gonna add a little circle on the inside. This is kind of like the light, like if there's moonlight coming down, I'm gonna fill in those circles. And even just with that, it's starting to look like an owl. So we're on our way. Now I'm going to do a little thing with the beak here. I'm going to do some kind of more hash marks. Like that. Just to make it look kind of fuzzy. And we'll do the outside of the beak. Because their feathers are really, really fuzzy. And I'm gonna stop here for a second. I'm going to show you one of our taxidermied owls that I have at the museum here. This is a little screech owl. So this is in kind of the same orientation we're drawing. So you can see he's got maybe not quite as big eyes as I drew, but pretty big eyes. Little tiny beak there, although its mouth is actually much bigger. It's just hidden under all these feathers. And there's a lot of little special feathers there that allow them to feel around in the dark. So, and then this one also has little tiny ear tufts, like the great horned owl does. They can hold those straight up. And those aren't its ears. A lot of people think they're the ears. They're also not horns, although we call them a great horned owl. They're just feather tufts. Their ears are actually on the side of their head. And I'm going to show you what an ear of an owl looks like on the inside. So this is a different type of mounted owl. But this one has been mounted so that you can see inside the ears. So this would be the side of the face. Now he's just been stuffed, so he's just got cotton in on the inside. But this is what the inside of the ears look like. So the ears are actually on the side of their head. And that's really strange. So any questions so far? No? I'll tell you all something really, really cool about those ears. So our ears, if I were to draw ears on the side of him, I would draw an ear here and a draw there, you know, if it was going to be a people head. But their ears, they'll have one down here and they'll have one up here. So they're kind of like really bizarrely positioned, and that allows them to triangulate on a mouse. So even in pitch black, you know, with no light on at all, if you had a space that was really clear, an owl can catch a mouse just by listening for it. So, all right, now we're going to add in some more of the head details. I'm going to make this owl have the ear tufts. Now, not all owls have ear tufts. Things like snowy owls don't have ear tufts. So I'm going to go across the top of its head a little bit, and then I'm going to do like a little triangle here, a little triangle, and I'm going to just kind of make it a little sort of soft around the edges. You know, and you might give them a little extra detail on the top of the forehead here. So we've got the top part of our owl's head. Now, if you could see the skeleton, they have a little tiny neck. You know, their rib cage would be here. But they're so covered in feathers, it makes their neck look really big. I don't know if you can kind of see the silhouette of the one behind me. Their neck looks really big. So we're going to come down the side here. I'm going to go almost straight down. So I'm going to kind of ignore that outer part of that circle. And I'm going to go down the side here and kind of ignore that part of the circle. So now we've got sort of the head in the right position. So again, you know, and a lot of owls will have what's called a facial disc. It's an extra row of feathers that's usually really obvious to see. It also helps push sound towards their ears. So we have that going on here. So there that's a pretty good head. I'm happy with that. If I don't get any further, I'm happy with that. All right, so next we're gonna do the body and the wings and the tail. So I'm just gonna, you can do this lots of different ways. I did little jaggedy lines. These are little rounded lines. I'm just gonna do some rounded lines like I'm doing feathers. All the way. I'm gonna do some jaggedy lines. Right, and then I'm gonna give him little dots here and there. Owls have lots of pattern on them. This allows them to hide in trees. So they hide from their prey, so their prey can't see them. But more importantly, during the day when they're sleeping, they're hiding from other things that might eat them or bother them, like crows. Crows will bother owls if they can find them. If you see a whole bunch of crows kind of mobbing around a tree, especially in the summertime, that's probably an owl that they're, or maybe a hawk, daytime too, but they're kind of mobbing things there. All right, so we've got kind of our chest going on there. Now we're gonna put in the wings. Now wings are like your arm, so they have a shoulder, upper arm, forearm, and then they don't really have fingers. They've kind of lost most of their fingers in its feathers. So ours is gonna have just a little bit of a shoulder right there. We're gonna come around. This would be kind of like the wrist. And then we're gonna just go straight down, follow that first line. All right, now on that wing, they have rows of feathers. Let me show you a couple of wings here. Here's a nice, this is a barred owl. They're a very common owl in Minnesota. You sometimes hear them at night. They're the ones who say, "Who cooks for you?" So, hoo, 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 hoo. So, but you can see on here, there's like a group of smaller feathers on top. Those are the coverts, the covering feathers. And then there are the flight feathers underneath. These are the long, straight, stiff feathers. And on owls, all of those feathers have fuzzy little tips. And the reason they have the fuzzy tips is that it helps them fly without making any noise. So we're going to do that to our owl here. So it's going to have the covert section. So we're going to just do some extra little feathers here. Now, if I had a pencil, this isn't going to work with my permanent marker here. If I had a pencil, in fact, I'm going to grab a pencil really quick. If I had a pencil, I would probably do this by shading so that it looked softer, but that's not what I'm using. I'm using this marker. It'll be fine. I can shade in the feathers a little bit if I want to. And then these are the long feathers. So we'll do one big one here. And then the long feathers have a pattern on them. So I'm going to go like this. It's you kind of stack them. So there. And I'm going to leave it soft on the back side here because we're going to we'll do the back, which is just more soft, fuzzy feathers all the way down. Do some more soft fuzzy on the bottom too here. All right. So tail. What do we do for a tail? Here's the thing. Here's the backside of my owl. When their wings are folded, a lot of owls you can barely even see their tail. It's so short. It's not like a peacock tail, which is huge, or a pheasant tail, which has those long feathers. So we're going to do a little tail on ours. I'm just going to kind of square out a little tail, and it's got its own feathers in there. I'm going to do some more pattern in there. It's almost like peppermint stripes, like in a candy, but not so defined, and obviously not in red and white or green and white. Well, that might be kind of cool. I think I should do a candy colored owl now. I think that would be fun. I'm just gonna do some quick, get these in there. All right, I'm gonna do some more fill in on the back here. All right. So that's pretty good so far. Now we need it to be standing on our little branch. Otherwise, right now he's kind of a hovering football owl. So we need to do the feet. Let's see if this owl will oblige here. All right. So important things about owl feet. This is a really good view. These are what are called talons. They're often in a group called raptors, which has to do with the fact that it's for grabbing. It's these talons. They're very, very sharp, very sharp. I don't want to press on these too hard, but you can see how easily that's pressing on my skin there. If I press hard enough, it would actually draw blood. I don't want to do that. One of the important things you also see is that there are feathers on their feet. Most owls have feathers on their toes. It helps them to fly quietly, keeps their toes warm, also protects them from things that might want to bite them. They also have very flexible, their 3 front toes, they have 3 going in the front and then 1 in the back. The 3 in the front are very flexible. Sometimes it will actually look like they've got 2 going forward and 2 going back. So we're not going to draw all of the toes, and that's okay. We're going to draw 3 toes, and I'm going to change back to my under pencil, or in this case, my under marker. Now it's going to be about where you drew the back end of the covert, the covering feathers is about where the toes are going to go. And I'm going to make 1 sausage shape kind of another one that goes right behind, and I'm going to do one back here. I'm going to give him really big feet. My owl's going to have really big feet. And then they're going to have really long talons. They're usually really kind of thin and tapered at the end. There. I'm going to actually draw in a little bit more of my tree. So we're going to do like it's like a broken tree branch and it's sitting on a broken tree branch. I'm going to give it a little tree branch on the side here. Now, since we're doing this drawing right now and it's the middle of winter, one of the cool things about owls, and there's so many cool things about owls, is that they breed in the wintertime. So unlike most birds where you think of spring, owls actually lay their eggs and nest in February. Well, great horned owls nest in February. So in the middle of the cold, in the real dark. And right now they're out there calling to the other owls. They're trying to find a mate. And so it's a really good time to go out listening for an owl. If you live somewhere where you got some trees around. Now I'm gonna add in some details here. I'm gonna give them really fuzzy feet. I'm gonna make those talons really nice and dark so that I know that they're those claws. Their talons are kind of like your fingernails, only really, really sharp. A second talon there. There'd be another toe back there. I just can't see it because it's behind our little log here, a little branch. All right, I'm gonna do that. Now, I wish I had like a yellow crayon or something right now, because I would go in there and I would make those eyes like yellow or orange so they would really stand out. Once you have it all in, you can, add brown or gray to it. There's not a lot of very colorful owls out there because they're out at night. So gray, brown, white, tree. Yeah, there we go. Show you one more set of feathers because I was talking about white. So this is a snowy owl wing. Now we get our animals. Most of them are animals that got hit by cars or maybe got sick and somebody found them. So we don't go collect owls just to have feathers. In fact, it's without a permit. You can't do that. That's against the law. But snowy owls tend to live way up north in the Arctic Circle, unless they have a year where there isn't a lot of food, and then they migrate south, and they migrate south to Minnesota at times. And I know for a fact that as of us sketching this, there are snowy owls at the airport right now. They like big, open, flat spaces, and so we have had some snowy owls migrate down to Minnesota already. And so you might actually get a chance to see one if you're really lucky. But here we go. We have our owl sketched. Maybe I'll add a little bit more detail to that face. I feel like it needs more feathers. There you go. Maybe little feathers underneath the eyes a little bit. So there we go. We have an owl now. I'm going to do owl. There. Any questions out there? Are we good?
I think you have told everyone everything they need to know about owls. Everyone was busy drawing.
Trying to draw. Now we'll post this again so you can go back through and watch if you want to. I think I gave him a little bit, not enough, too much of a neck. So we might go down here a little bit. So you can go back in, make changes as you want. Try again. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's kind of why I use markers, because then I can't spend all my time erasing. So it's like I'd rather draw it several times as opposed to just once. That way I can learn from my own mistakes, which is just fine when you're drawing. So.
Well, thank you so much for showing us this today. It was a nice thing to do on a calm, sort of snowy afternoon. If our visitors out there want to learn more about owls in Minnesota in particular, is there a good place for them to go, Jennifer?
I'm sure you could, post to our Facebook page and ask a question there. I also encourage you to look at one of our sister institutions at the University of Minnesota, which is the Raptor Center. They take care of injured birds too, and they do a lot of programming with raptors, such as owls and hawks and eagles and things like that.